welcome back, you lucky listeners, to NH Unscripted. Yeah, baby, we are just one toke over the line, sweet Jesus. I am your Brewer and Shipley-like host, Ray Dudley. We are coming to you from the Car 54-like digs of the WKXL studios in Concord. You know the drill. I got my Nehru jacket on, my bell-bottom pants, my paisley pants, by the way. Great design back in the 70s. Break out those Sony Walkmans. Get out your transistor radios. The poor kids had the 8 transistor. The rich kids had the 16. Yeah, cutting-edge technology back then. Flip them on over to 1450 AM, 103.9 FM in Concord, 101.9 FM for the beautiful souls in Manchester. And we got a URL. It's nhtalkradio.com. I'll give you some more info on what's happening out there a little bit later. I need to thank my sponsor. I am deeply, deeply indebted to the law offices of Shaheen and Gordon in downtown Concord. That's where I know them from. They're across the state, of course, but I am deeply grateful that they have taken on the task of sponsoring this great show. We get them in here once a month, hopefully, to talk about the various aspects of what they do over there. We could just literally almost throw a rock to their Concord facilities. Well, yeah, but then they would probably sue me, and then how would that... Okay, that's... Anyway, their URL is ShaheenGordon.com, ShaheenGordon.com, and you know I've said this before, and I'll say it again. If you have been on this earth long enough, either you or someone you know is going to need a good attorney. Come on. And they do it all. Personal injury. They do. You know, I was out their website the other day, and some of their business, they do site acquisition, financing. They do commercial leasing, zoning. Tell me you don't need that kind of stuff. Okay, hopefully you don't need their divorce stuff, but you know, it could happen. You could also hit the lottery and need to give some away to an old man on the end of a microphone. But I digress. ShaheenGordon.com is their website. They are all over this state, by the way. Dover, Manchester, Nashua, Peterborough. Their phone number is 603-614-5560, and I hope you've listened to some of the other programs where we've had them in. The law is fascinating. I thought it would be boring, but I've gotten them in. It's just fascinating stories these people have. Anyway, thank you to Shaheen Gordon for sponsoring our show. Well, we're going a little out of our element today. In studio with me is the host of our the program that takes place here, Artful Living, Jane Cormier. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I am well. It's good to see you.
Same here.
Listen, so Jane does opera. Jane knows opera. So I
did musical theater, too.
Well, okay. But, all right.
Opera's the one you want.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to go there for a second.
Okay.
The closest thing, there's 2 things I know about opera. 1, I know nothing about opera. 2, the only shows I can say that I've ever come close to opera, one's taking place downtown at the Palace Theater right now, which is Jesus Christ Superstar, a rock opera. Mm-hmm. The other was when I was in high school, I had a girlfriend, and her family was deep into cultural things, and she took me to see The Mikado.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, couldn't tell you.
So it's opera?
I don't know a thing about it. I couldn't to this day tell you what. I know nothing about it. Mm-hmm. But kudos to people who do.
Okay.
So I wanted to ask, let's start off with, because you traveled Europe, correct?
Yeah.
Doing opera?
Yeah.
How did that even come about? Is it a family thing?
No, actually, I'm the last of 8 kids, and if anybody had asked me up until about age 21 that I would be an opera singer, if I was interested, I would have laughed in their face.
Seriously?
So I had 14 years of tap dance experience. Since I was 4, I was going to be on the Broadway stage. I had a great chest head voice, and began gigging when I was 17, although I couldn't get paid until I was 18 because it was in a club. But, they had booze back then, right? 18, It was legal. So I could actually be in the club singing and get paid.
Is this locally? In
Andover.
US?
It was Andover, Mass.
What? You're from Andover, Mass?
I am. I'm from Andover, Mass. And
my wife's from Andover.
Is she?
Yeah,
gosh, that's wild. Yeah, no, from Andover. And so there was a Andover school student who had graduated And his father was very famous. He was a congressman. I forget his name now. Isn't that terrible? But he had this group called the Sheratones that he wanted to start, and he needed a soprano for that. So it was a musical theater, singing, actor, serving drinks thing. And so that was my first professional thing. But even at that point, there was no opera on the horizon. It wasn't until I got to college, and I had a music department head who was an opera genius, really. He was steeped in it in Germany. And when they heard that I had this really high extension, I went really high in the voice, he said, you should sing opera. And I was like, ha, 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 yeah, right, okay. Well, I did. I took him, I studied a little bit for like a year and a half with a teacher, a classical, opera teacher, and went really fast. I was very lucky. When you do opera, you can't just learn to sing. You have to sort of be able to do the whole enchilada, because most of the audience, if they can't understand Italian or they can't understand the German, you have to be able to act, or you should be able to act, what you're saying so that they can still understand, even if they don't have translations.
Yeah.
So you're doing like 4 trainings at the same time. You're doing the languages, you're doing diction. You have to learn, everyone has to learn International Phonetic Alphabet. It's called IPA.
What?
Oh, you have to be good at it, because you have to be able to sing in 4 or 5 languages, and you have to be able to sing well. So there's this whole language dictionary system that you learn for symbols, so that if somebody wanted me to sing a Russian opera, I can read the musical symbols of the language and be able to make an accountable sound for that.
Would this be like, and forgive me for putting it on this level, like Braille? So
yeah, well, it's a communication
musical
thing.
Braille.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a symbol system, and it shows you, because German and e in French are very different, right?
Yeah.
So the symbols are different, so you know how to vocally say those symbols by learning IPA. And then if you have to have a drama coach, of course, and a diction coach, and a vocal coach and a voice teacher. They're very different. Vocal coach teaches you the style of the different generations of opera, whereas the opera teacher, the vocal teacher, teaches you how to physically sing. So I didn't go through college with that. I started at 21. Had some lessons, 22, 23, was catching up on my own. When I graduated, my undergrad degree was in creative arts with a psych major, figure that out, and minor, I should say. And then I went to Boston Conservatory for like about a year to do their extension program for opera. And then I just happened to go to Europe. I went to Europe, Graz, Austria. I got into a group called American Institute for Musical Students. And I was, 24? And there I met a woman named Joan Dornemann. Freak. Was a total freak. I was singing a Gershwin night in Graz at a beautiful palace. And I'm
in over my head. This is crazy.
No,
go ahead.
This is fun. Yeah. So
ahead.
This woman came up to me. She was at the Institute to teach. Yeah. And remind now, I'm in musical theater. I'm not really, I study a little bit of opera, but I got into the program as a musical theater artist.
Even at the conservatory, the Boston Conservatory?
Boston Conservatory, I was opera program.
Okay.
Right. So I was still studying. I had no real, inclination to go jump on the boat, but I was studying it.
Okay.
Right? But Joan Dornemann came up to me, and she gave me her card, and she said, "Don't give this to anyone. I don't want any other student to have this card." She said, "But I'm at the Metropolitan Opera, and if you could find a way to get to me, I will teach you." So I laughed.
Yeah, no kidding.
Took the card.
Yeah.
I went home and I showed Charles Ludington, who was the head of the program at Bradford College, and he almost fell on the floor. And he said, "Jane, that woman is the A list in the Metropolitan Opera for all of the coaching and the prompting that happens at the Met." So a prompter is someone in opera that sits underneath the stage. You can't see them from the seats, but if the stage is here, the lip of the stage is there, their head is right there.
Yeah.
And they will cue from the prompter's booth these very, difficult operas. The Metropolitan Opera is 4,000 plus seats, so it's huge. And it's, you have to have a prompter there because you have a pit that's so large. Sometimes you can't really even hear what's going on. You have to watch. You have to be able to see when it's coming.
Is this all the time?
Yeah, at the Met. And other big companies too, they'll have prompters, yeah.
Jane, hang on. I am captivated. We got to put a pin in that one right there.
Okay.
We are your night. The lights went out in Georgia, baby. I'm your Vicki Lawrence-like host, Ray Dudley. We are coming to you from the Hollywood Square-like digs of the WKXL studios in Concord. I personally like to sit in the center square where old Paul Lynn used to sit. 1450 AM, 103.9 FM on your transistor radios in Concord. 101.9 FM for the beautiful, beautiful, beautiful souls in Manchester. NHTalkRadio.com is our URL. Jane Cormier is in the house. Now she's got my attention. We'll be right back. Welcome back to NH Unscripted, where you are stuck in the middle with us. I am your Steelers wheel-like host, Ray Dudley. We are coming to you from the dating game-like digs of WKXL studios in Concord. 1450 AM, 103.9 FM on your transistor radios. Oh, your Sony Walkman's Walk. Oh, for goodness sake. 101.9 FM for the beautiful souls in Manchester. NHTalkRadio.com is where there's a lot of action out there. Jane Cormier is in the house talking about opera. Yeah, I know. I'm way in. I'm deep. You're giving me chills over some things I had no idea ever took place. Mm-hmm. So one of the things I really love about being able to interview and talk with people like yourself is I love the mechanics of what goes on, how they work these things through. So I had no idea. When I watch, and I don't watch it often, I'll admit.
That's okay.
Opera or anything like that. I had no idea there was somebody in that pit that they actually have to watch at the same time.
Sure. Now, this in Europe, most houses don't do this.
Okay.
Right? But yes, in the big opera houses that have huge houses, right? Huge people there, big pits, big stages. You remember now that the Metropolitan Opera stage is the size of a football field.
No, I did not know that.
So
too.
it is. Think about that. So
it's worth getting out of bed for this. Come on.
So this prompter is hugely important. Now, Joan Dornaman was the A-list, which means that it was the Pavarottis, the Monstracapellets, the very famous singers would only allow her in the booth. So she had to be the prompter. Therefore, she was the repetiteur. So she was the person that was going through the opera with everybody, preparing the opera. Because they prepare it and then they prompt it. Yeah. Now, the conductor is behind her, and he's conducting, now, scale. Think of scale.
I cannot get my head around this.
A Wagnerian opera will have over 120 people in that pit. Okay, a Wagnerian opera is a huge piece.
I can't. Go ahead.
Huge scale, right? And that's why they need the football field size stages, because it's so physically big. Big singing voices, big orchestra, big sets, big music, right? For Wagner. Not everybody likes Wagner, and I'm one of them. I never got through that, but
I would like to say I feel the same way, but I don't know anything about it.
Well, so if you started with the lighter opera, you might graduate, and I might too. There's always hope, right? I might change as I'm getting older now. But so in any case, my working with her, I got a part-time apartment at West 87th Street, and I would go there for 3-4 nights a week. I would practice with her. I'd get my voice lessons at Juilliard because she set this all up for me. I'd get my voice lessons at Juilliard. I'd work with a very famous woman on dramaturgy. Janet Bookspan was her name. And the number one person in the world for International Phonetic Alphabet, a man called Nico Castell. Now, all of these people are like world famous, crazy famous in opera world, considered even today to be the greatest at what they did. And I just lucked out. I can claim...
Understatement alert. Understatement alert.
Listen. Do you know how weird it is that she would come and hear me sing? Da-na-na-na-na. What's that song? Na-na-na-na-na. A George Gershwin piece on stage, right? And know that I could sing opera.
No.
That's a freak. She's a freak. So who knew? Don't tell me it wasn't God, because there's no way I would have been able to get to Joan Dornaman at the Metropolitan Opera.
Right.
In any case, do you know how we started? And I tell my students this, my opera students this, and they laugh at me, but it's true. Thank God I had a little bit of training with languages, little bit. She goes to her shelf. So I'm in her studio now. I'm at the Met, right? Backstage at the Met. And first lesson, I'm like, I'm like really scared. She's really down to earth, and she knew, this kid is, she's a nothing. We're starting from the ground up. She grabs a Rigoletto score, which is a Verdi opera, light opera in terms of the scale of opera. It's about 2.5 hours, and it's beautiful, very melodic, right? By Giuseppe Verdi. And she starts at the beginning, and she was a monster pianist. This woman was a monster friggin' pianist.
Are you kidding me?
Her greatness wasn't so much in the technical aspect of what she was doing. And this is really cool. She was able, between notes, to play emotion that was within the scene of that scene of opera.
Wait, Jane, break that down for me. What does that even mean?
I have no idea. Because I've been around great pianists. I've been lucky enough to be around the greatest of the great with regard to the facility of playing a piece of piano music, right? Now, she could play anything on the piano. She was technically a great pianist, but her talent wasn't that. Her talent was that the rage in the scene, or the love in the scene, or the fear in the scene. I don't know how to this day she did it, but she was able, through how she played that piano, to encapsulate what that emotion was supposed to be.
That's a gift.
Totally. I've never seen anyone do it
really
like that. Yeah. That's why she was the best. I mean, she's Emmy Award winning, she's really famous. Anyway, we learned, she started at the beginning of that opera, and I learned the role of Gilda with Joan Dornaman from the beginning of the opera as we played through it. Now, she was tough. I mean, you had to not only learn your part, you had to learn many of the other parts, too.
What?
Only because you needed to know where you were coming from. And she required, if you worked with her, you had to translate every word in the opera, not just what you were singing, which they really not so great at today. So the training was totally different. I was so lucky. I wasn't in a conservatory, but I was hopping around with these people that were at the top tier and were sharing what they had with me. I mean, it's crazy. It should never have happened. That's what I told you. It's weird. Just show up sometimes and it happens. Anyway, through the years, I learned a number of roles from Joan and went off. And my first audition in Europe, I got an agent in my first audition sing. And the story of how I got to Europe was pretty funny, but this is, I guess, another story. But I got this gig for Phantom of the Opera, okay? Das Phantom der Oper, which was the Phantom of the Opera in German, right? Carlotta, Andrew Lloyd Webber. And so I go on, and of course now I'm singing for Lucia, I'm singing Violettas, I'm singing for all these other things. And they say, they bring me up on the stage,
okay.
And it was the Maskenball scene, the masquerade scene. And sing my stuff there. And they said, oh, okay, yeah, we definitely, right there. This never happens. They said, right there, yeah, we want you. We want you to sign up. And they said, well, so here's the schedule. And it was like, 7 shows a week. And you wouldn't sing them all because they had many different, they had like 3 Carlottas because it's a tough role,
Yeah.
And, but, I was going to be the 3rd Carlotta starting out, but they thought they were going to move me up. And I said, oh, okay, yeah, I can't do it. And they said, what? They were like, I'll never forget it. They were shocked. The people sitting there was like the intendant, the head of the opera, the music director, the theater director. And I said, no, because I came to this country to sing opera. And this is not opera.
Wait, you said that to them?
I did. I was crazy. I was 28. And
tell me, did they laugh in your face? How?
No. Do you know what she said?
I'm afraid to find out.
No, she understood.
She did?
And Doris Foreman was her name, and she was like this German, I'm in charge kind of gal. And she said, okay. She said, well, what if I gave it to you for half a year? And I said, okay, I'll do a half a year. So it was I did a year as it turned out. I mean, crazy money. So and the agent was like so, and the agency was not a happy. This was not a happy. Agents aren't happy people. And he was really PO'd that I didn't jump at the free, and he castigated me. You realize that you're getting more than you'd get in any opera house in the country, and you ought to be grateful. I said, well, I took it for 6 months. You're getting your cut.
Oh,
I didn't say that, but yeah. Anyway, so I did Phantom. But it was really such an incredible experience because I got to work with Hal Prince, and I got to work with his assistant was a gal, Gillian, I think is how he pronounced it, Lynn, and she liked me so much because she was all about the movement in Phantom. She did all the Phantom shows. Every Phantom show that opened, Prince and her would travel with their entourage, like 30 people, and come in and do the show and set it up. Every move had to be exactly the same.
Wow.
Yeah, there was no room. And if you argued with him...
you couldn't interpret it differently or anything?
Wow. I saw someone lose his job because he talked back to Prince on stage.
Oh!
Yeah, stupid. Really stupid American, actually. And didn't like the way that he was going to have to do a scene in the show. And Prince came up to the stage, which we all knew. We were like, because he did everything sitting down.
Yeah.
You already kind of knew what you had to do. He was just there to make sure you did it. Oh. And this guy picked a fight with Hal Prince. Like, how dumb can you be?
Oh, my.
He was fired the next day.
I could be that dumb. Okay, hang on. I hear that music. My goodness. You are listening to NH Unscripted with our signs everywhere are signs. I am your 5-man electrical band-like host, Ray Dudley. We are coming to you from the Green Acres Like Digs of the WKXL studios in Concord. Mr. Haney, you like rungs with that ladder? 1450 AM, 103.9 FM in Concord. NHTalkRadio.com is our URL. Yeah, we're having a heck of a lot of fun. We'll be right back. Jane and I. Welcome back to NH Unscripted, where you can put your hand in the hand of the man who stilled the waters. I am your oceans-like host, Ray Dudley. We are coming to you from the YMCA-like conditions of the WKXL studios in Concord. I can smell the pool chlorine from here. 1450 AM, 103.9. Yeah, it's that kind of a day. 101.9 FM for the beautiful, beautiful souls in Manchester. NHTalkRadio.com is our URL. We live out there sometimes. Jane Cormier is in the house, and I wanted specifically to talk to her about opera because it's something I know nothing about. Mind blown. Make a note. Mind blown. Jane, I want to talk to you a little bit about, you said you're still teaching opera, right?
I teach vocal technique.
How has that industry changed over the years?
It's changed tremendously. I was on...
For the good, or, do you...
Both.
Yeah, okay.
Both. I think that when I was there, I was at the cusp, I was at the end, just before the cusp of a big change, because the technological stuff happened just as I came home from Europe. I was there a couple of, year and a half at one time, and then, another year, another time. So it was on and off, right? But when I came back home, then technology was there. Now we had debit cards, and we had, you could have Gmail and stuff like that, or email. There was none of that when I was out singing, So what that did for the world of opera, I'm still not sure that it benefited. In one way, it did, because the opera singer as a human being with technology was finally able to connect with people. When I was singing, it was not a life I wanted to sign on to, because I was in Europe, you could only use a telephone. There was no way to text. There was no way to call.
Point.
You can't talk. I'm an opera singer. You're only as good as your next gig, right? If that voice is not pristine and ready to shoot at all the notes all the time, there's someone that's coming to take in your spot.
Wow.
So you didn't go out. You couldn't smoke. You couldn't drink. And again, you spend a lot of times like in movie theaters or reading. which was fine. I mean, I don't
Because of the silence, you needed the
Yeah.
the
I think
alone.
that's not normal, what you do with the voice, right? So opera singers don't sing 5 nights a week. They sing night 2.
Okay.
Because you need to cool it down after you've blown out, vocal cords like that, right? Wow. And you can't ever be hoarse, and you have to be able to manage whatever the requirement is of that vocal thing. Now, I was a high coloratura. That means that I sang all the high, fast notes. That was me, like the Queen of the Nights, the Lucias, Violettas. And
you say that, thankfully. I'm happy that you at least look at me like I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
But I appreciate that.
La Traviata.
That's okay. You've
heard
ahead.
that. You've heard of that opera, right? Okay.
I will
So
admit.
that's the lead, Violetta, La Traviata, Lucia di Lammermoor is like that one, very fast, high stuff. Mad Scene. Ever hear about the mad scene in opera where? No, okay. Well, the mad scene's in Lucia.
I appreciate.
How
you
about
asking
Queen
me
of the
that.
Night? Queen of the Night for Magic Flute.
I'm from the 70s, right? Okay. Oh,
You've
yeah,
heard it.
yeah. I
know you've heard
I
it.
have.
Right. All right. So that's the Queen of the Night.
Okay.
Right. So those notes all are at the extension of the voice. And if you don't take care of the voice, you're not meeting the notes. You're not getting up there. You're not going to hit those things like a bell. So you have to be quiet. So when I left, I think a lot of it was because I was so lonely living by myself in Europe,
I would never have thought of that.
Oh, gosh, it was really a lonely existence. And I'm the last of 8 kids. I mean, at the time, I probably had like 35 nieces and nephews.
Wow.
And I was not in contact with anyone for like a year and a half. I came home. I did some more, performing here. I went to regional companies like Indianapolis Opera, Des Moines Metro Opera, Cape Cod Opera, stuff that was here in this country.
Yeah.
And sang there. And I started an opera company right here in Concord called Opera Fest of New Hampshire. And I started that mainly to get young kids in. I wanted to start training these young singers and share with them what I got from Joan Dornaman and Nico Castell. And we occasionally would bring them because Nico Castell turned out to be a good friend of ours. And he met my kids. My kids both knew Nico. And so I brought him he came to New Hampshire, I think, like 3 times. And we had master classes with Nico Castell.
Oh, my God. Tell me your kids at least appreciated this.
They both loved Nico.
Oh, wow.
No, this guy was a real character. He was from, I believe, I don't want to say Spain, but he was like a Spaniard, and he was fluent. I want to say in like 15 languages.
Oh my God!
Yeah, crazy. He was a genius, and he wrote a book on the IPA that is today considered still that's the book. Wow. Yeah. Fabulous diction coach, international. And so, he came, and we had Janet Bookspan did an opera here. Who was a dramaturg, she was a drama director. She did a couple of operas here for us here at Opera Fest. And so I was able to bring some people here that would train young singers from all over the country that would come to New Hampshire and perform with us. And that was the whole point.
Yeah.
It's kind of still is, except that at my age now, and I'm kind of out of the opera realms, I'm just teaching really good vocal technique that can be used no matter where you go, right? But you're certainly able to still teach a good voice opera student.
So I want to get back to, you mentioned the introduction of technology.
Yeah.
How has that been incorporated, for good or bad, into opera nowadays?
Well, opera has always been a live medium.
Right.
Opera does not transcend like musical theater does.
Yeah.
If you're not seeing it live, if you're not feeling before that big song, big sound comes out. It's kind of like if you've seen ballet, right? If you've ever gone to a classical ballet production and you see it on TV, you get it. It's beautiful. But when you go and you can hear the toes, clip, 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 clip on the stage, and you can, it's different. And opera's the same way. The force of that art form is so much more than, because you don't magnify with amplification. Opera singers are not amplified. They shouldn't be anyway.
Yeah, that's
you're
where I was thinking technology.
No. You sing with no microphones, baby. So if you're
even to this day, they don't use them.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, there are some people that say they cheat on some voices that are smaller.
Yeah.
They say that the Met secretly amps them, but I've never seen it.
Yeah.
And you're not supposed to. So you could have 90 people in the orchestra, and it's your 2 vocal cords against that 90.
Wow.
And you will win. That's the craziness of opera.
With no
you will win.
Mechanical intervention.
Now I'm saying if you're in the best part of your voice, right?
Yeah.
If I'm singing in my upper register, I'm winning.
Yeah.
And it's only because there's a certain force with it, of course, in the technique where you have to be able to be under it, right?
Yeah.
But most of it is the scientific thing of the wave of sound. And the tighter the wave of a sound wave, the further that wave goes. Right? So a chest sound wave, if I'm singing in chest, like you hear in Broadway, those are fat sound waves. They're fat.
I didn't know that.
And that's why they need to be amplified. Because if you put an opera singer next to a Broadway singer, Barbara, just go home.
No kidding.
No one's going to hear him. Absolutely no way they can compete.
I would have thought you would have said, it's the acoustics of the Met itself, the way it was designed.
Some of it is designed for the voice, for sure. But in your own voice, if you are a trained opera singer and you're in your voice in the good part of your instrument. Now, if I'm singing in the lower end, I'm not going to be able to compete with the same register as the strings.
Now, you individually, you mean, because of
correct.
Okay.
Now, there might actually be a contralto. That's her voice. Baby, she's going to do it, right?
Yeah.
In that realm. But where I'm higher, those sound waves are much tighter. Mm-hmm. And I had a very tight voice. I had a very healthy, strong, high voice. And so I, never had any issue with anything. Singing, easy to hear. And I had a great register. I had virtually 3 octaves almost my whole life. And which means that I could sing low F below middle C to the F above middle C to the F above that to the F high F. I had the high F above that, which was the Queen of the Night F, the high F. Everybody knows about. So technology, it's affected opera in that what we're doing with the HD things. Right? People don't have to go to the opera house anymore because now they can tape them live at the Met and you can and more people can go see it.
Yeah.
But it's not the same.
Yeah.
It's not the same. You're not feeling the force. You're not feeling what that because you know that when you're in your thing as a good actor, there's an energy that you're in control of.
Yeah, you look for it. Yeah,
you get it. And you actually can bring that energy. For instance, when I was on stage, I could tell when I was losing part of my audience. You could feel it. Multidimensional performing is something we don't teach and we should. There's 4 dimensions to teach. There's 4 dimensions to be a great performer. That's great. 3's good, 4's great. But if you knew you were losing an audience member, I could go out toward that spot on the stage and get it and pull them in. And that's what you're trained to do.
Oh, my God. I'm so happy I got out of bed. You are listening to NH Unscripted. Yeah, we're your double shot of your baby's love. I am your swinging medallions-like host, Ray Dudley. We are coming to you from the Taj Mahal-like digs of the WKXL studios in Concord. My God, it's cavernous in here. 1450 AM, 103.9 FM on your Sony Walkmans, 101.9 FM for the beautiful souls of Manchester. Jane Cormier is doing the mind-blowing, it's like magic. I have a lot more questions. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the mind-blowing NH Unscripted. My goodness. Don't give me no hand-me-down world. I am your Guess Who like host, Ray Dudley. We are coming to you from the spa-like conditions of the WKXL studios in Concord. Hang on, I'm getting the massage a little lower.
Jeez.
1450 AM, 103.9 FM for the beautiful souls in Concord, 101.9 FM for the beautiful, beautiful, beautiful souls in Manchester. We love you down there. NHTalkRadio.com is our URL where you get up 2 or 3 in the morning and you're like having your warm milk and cookies and you need a friend. You can go out there. There's a button you can click and you can find all the archives out there of not only this, which should be an award-winning show, but you never know, and all the other stuff that takes place here at the studio, as well as there's a button you can click and listen to live, everything that goes on here live. This show happens to come to you every Wednesday and Friday mornings at 9, 8. Oh, tough getting old. Jane Cormier is in the house, and she is blowing me away with talk about opera. Jane, I had a quick question.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with auto-tuning?
Yes.
It's become a big issue.
I hate it.
Tell me why.
Because it's an it modifies
Bingo.
a singular sound that belongs to a singular person that they have worked on.
Yeah.
And it changes the vibration of their color.
Mm-hmm.
That's how auto-tuning works, is that it goes into the sound wave, finds closest thing to clean it.
Pins it to that.
That's right, and then puts it out. That's not real.
Yeah.
That's and I know artists do, especially today, embrace that. I suppose if you're only doing it here or there, it'd be okay. I'm not sure that that's the way it's being used, but I'm very much against it. I like holistic stuff, and that goes with the voice.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. I really am. And what about, now I don't think it takes place in opera, but, there's a lot of controversy about lip syncing in these, a lot of these groups nowadays who are selling tickets.
Yeah. They don't lip sync.
Yeah.
Now, if you see a couple of, they have done a couple of movies in the past. Like Maria Callas has done a movie. Oh man, I'm going blank. A very famous movie, Medea, right? And it's an opera, and she was very famous for that. And I believe that she did lip sync some of that. So some of the operatic movies they might lip sync, but you couldn't lip sync opera for real.
Yeah.
It wouldn't work.
I can't imagine.
There's too many people singing at the same time. It wouldn't work.
Whew.
Yeah, somebody had missed somewhere.
My goodness. You had a subject you asked me if I would bring up. A swinging? What was it?
A swing.
Swing.
So something really interesting I did not know until Phantom. I had done, 25 musical theater shows before I got to Phantom, right?
Yeah.
And that is, they have something. After they signed me up for Carlotta, they said, so we'd like you to be a swing. And I was like, well, what's that? And I didn't know anything about it, so I figured maybe your listeners might not know. But evidently in Broadway shows, what they do is they hire people to do certain roles. But, you can't sing Carlotta. It's very difficult. It's an operatic thing. It's like 3 high E's singing Carlotta in Phantom.
Take your word for that.
It's a big role, right?
Okay.
So you do that maybe 2-3 times a week. When you're singing. In the other performances, because there's 5 more shows, right?
Yeah.
You can do something called a swing. And what it is it's like this chorus roles, multiple chorus roles that you learn so that you can fill all of these openings that might ever happen in an opera or a musical theater show.
Is that a good thing? Because a few moments ago you said that, you kind of don't want to ruin your voice.
Yeah, no, I loved it because they're usually very vocally nothing sings.
Got you.
Yeah, they're not the lead. Your leads are the ones that are blowing the window, right?
Yeah.
So you got to play all these different roles. So I had like 5 different roles. I was one of the Christines that was crossing. You know the big scene in Phantom when he captures her and he brings her underneath, right?
Yes.
And everybody wonders, how does he get to where he is? Well, it's their body doubles.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So they have 3 guys. And
spoiler alert.
There it is. That's why. Isn't this interesting? So how they do that is they dress you up like the Phantom or like Christine. And so I think there were 3. So he's one, the real one, and she's the real one. But then in 2 or 3 other spots, you're coming out of trap doors or you're coming out of side entrances as a Christine and the Phantom as he's bringing her up the bridge or through the water. Yeah. So that would be like a swing role. Or the chorus in Masquerade. They have all the choristers sing and dance in that, right? So I had multiple roles that they filled me in. Gillian Lynn really liked me. And she actually gave me the only costume ever put into Phantom to put me in as a swing for Masquerade when I was in Carlotta. And I got to pick out the color and everything. Wow. It was a sea green butterfly, and it had never been. She had that. I thought that was so cool. She had that done for me, my color, to play that character in Masquerade when I wasn't, not Christine, but when I wasn't Carlotta. Very cool. So when you sign up to be a swing, you make a lot of money.
I didn't know
because
that either.
You get paid per performance. You get paid a different thing for performance for a swing. Like I got a lot of money when I played Carlotta, but if I only played her 3 times a week, I got good pay. But then I also get the shtick, what they call shtick piece, and it's the same in Broadway. If you're a swing, you get those little things you do, right? And then you get another piece for rehearsal.
That is a sweet gig.
That's how it works.
Wow.
Yeah, that's why you make some money. So I made over 100,000 gigging in Europe, which was very unusual for an opera singer. You don't make 100,000 in. It was because it was Andrew Lloyd Webber's Phantom.
Yeah. So we don't have a whole lot of time left, but what kind of advice would you give to people who are just maybe, I can't imagine, this is my ignorance, but I can't imagine someone's thinking about opera, getting into opera, but you live in that world. Yeah. So what would you say to them just starting out, or, what kind of thing, what direction would you
I would
give
tell
them?
a young singer today, do not just go into opera. Today you have the ability to sing musical theater, which is toward the operatic realm now. The pieces that are being written today are no longer being like they were even 10 years ago. They are more operatic in nature,
Seriously?
More free-flowing, absolutely, less dialogue, more enhanced orchestration, which needs to be a more full singer. So learn your vocal technique first. And do not pigeonhole yourself to just sing opera, because your vocal technique will allow you to sing the whole realm today.
Wow.
Yeah, sure. You could sing Cats and Memory as a really good mezzo-soprano and gig, playing Carmen.
Yeah.
Why couldn't you? Of course you could. Today you can, because we have resources to help you do that. So don't pigeonhole yourself. Vocal technique is everything.
Wow.
Diction is everything. If the audience does not understand you, you cannot win them.
Is that a problem?
Yeah.
It's
huge.
Especially nowadays. I can't imagine.
Opera has
'Cause we get
always...
lazy, right?
No, absolutely. Yeah. Opera is full of bad actors. I'm sorry, I love you, opera. But it's because they think that singing is all it's about. And that was never true. It still is not true. Sure, the color of the voice and how pretty it is and how artful it might be is important. It doesn't mean anything if they're falling asleep because you're freaking boring.
Wow.
You got to be in the character, and you have to read the room. You have to be able to read the room. I mean, you get to the point where even where people are having trouble on stage.
Yeah.
You're awake enough to know. They don't know what that next word is, right? You could tell that you could see that they're shooting for that, and then you can actually help direct that. If you could see it coming, you get good at that thing. But that's what you got to hone. That's what you've got to practice.
Yeah.
That's why you do productions, to be participatory where you are as the performance is going. Not thinking about anything but at the moment. Solid acting at the moment. Mm-hmm. Active listening is huge in all musical theater.
Good point. Very
active
good point.
Listening.
Very good point.
So you could do that right now. You could do that in any production that you're in right now. And I'll tell you who taught me about the active listening, and that was Hal Prince, because he was such a genius. This guy was blew my mind. When singers would get up to perform, and they knew what they were doing, like the Christine he was working with at the time in my production. She knew what she was coming, and she was foreshadowing it and didn't know it.
Oh,
yeah, and he would catch it.
I'll bet he.
And
did.
then you'd see it. Then you'd see it, and you go, "No, why are you acting like that? That didn't happen yet." Why? And he was like, yeah, he's right.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's also something that happens when you play a lot of shows a week. You get bored with it. You kind of just do it automatic pilot.
Yeah,
and
I could see that.
You can easily forget where you are.
Sure, your mind will drift because it's just mechanics.
Yes.
You did Opera Idol, right? Last year you held Opera Idol?
Yes, correct.
Is that going to happen again this year?
Not this year.
All right.
I'm thinking maybe next year.
All right.
Yep.
All right. Hang on. That's the end. Oh, my God. Can you believe that? You are listening, or were anyway, to NH Unscripted. We are your Daisy a Day. I am your Judge Strunk-like host, Ray Dudley. We are coming to you from the not-so-overly ostentatious digs of the WKXL studios in Concord. Little nod there to Norm Nathan from WBZ, 1450 AM, 103.9 FM in Concord on your transistor radios, 101.9 FM for the beautiful souls in Manchester. NHTalkRadio.com is our URL. Jane Cormier, mind-blowing today. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my gosh. All right, we'll catch you on the next one.